Live from the Deer and Deer Hunting headquarters here in Iola, Wisconsin. Welcome to Wednesday and welcome to Deer Talk Now. Thanks for joining us once again. I'm Dan Schmidt along with Brad Rux, and we are into summer once again. Brad, we're talking about a lot of things today. We're going to talk about scouting, we're going to talk about tree stand placement, shooting, a little bit of things. Got a lot of great questions coming in. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Google+, email. You guys keep sending them. We love it. Everybody who has a question that's answered on the show will get a special gift here from us from Deer and Deer Hunting. Brad, let's talk. One of the questions, and I'm not going to even use it as a question because you know this so well off the top of your head, because I know you and your sons were doing some food plot prep and work this weekend. But with so much rain, in the month of June actually, I think we had over 6 inches of rain, which is almost a record. Everything's growing like crazy. It's getting hot. And one thing that's really growing is guys that have had their clover in, actually well established. And a lot of it, guys are saying, this stuff's knee high. Should I mow it? How low should I mow it? When should I mow it? I know you know stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to keep your clover actually shorter. I mean, you want to clover anywhere from 4 inches to 8 inches, 9 inches. Once it gets taller than that, it gets a little bit stemmy and it gets a little bit tough. So if you're going to mow it, we mow ours in stages. And what do I mean by that? We mow it half the plot at once, and then we come back in a week or 2 weeks later and mow the rest of it. And what that does is it allows the clover that you mowed to actually start greening up, start growing again, give them nice tender shoots. It gives those whitetails something to focus on, so that they don't leave your property. Because one of the worst things you can do is mow it all, and all of a sudden you hit a drought. I know we're not in that situation, but it could happen.
Could happen.
You don't get the rain, it doesn't green up, those whitetails don't have a food source, then they vacate.
Now, is clover different than grass? Because I know when you plant grass for a lawn or whatnot, they say don't mow it more than a third of its height. Is clover like that, or is it different?
No, it pops right back. We mow ours pretty much down with the brush hog as low as it would go. That's what we use as a bush hog. Normally, this year it's been so wet, I think I told you, Dan, we use the zero-turn mower. I use my lawnmower. It was so wet, we couldn't get the tractor into those spots. So we ended up taking the lawnmower down on a trailer with the ATV and mowing it on that, and we got the lawnmower stuck once.
Yeah,
that's how wet it is.
It's so wet, and especially something like clover that will retain moisture. As anybody knows who's cut grass, wet grass, that stuff gets jammed up, and it's just not a good situation to do when you're trying to mow something that's got a little moisture in it. Let's talk a little bit about clover itself. A lot of guys try to save money. They'll go to either a farm store or somewhere and buy red clover. That's a mistake, right?
Yeah, well, the preferred food source for whitetails is white clover. I mean, that's what they like the most. Why doesn't everybody have it in their blends? It's the most expensive. And when it comes to clover, I'm going to plug Whitetail Institute again, not because they're friends of mine, which they are, but it works. Their product works. The deer love it. I'm just telling you flat out.
Imperial whitetail clover. And the thing about that, because I often wondered, because I've seen deer just flock to it like a magnet, it took them like 6 years to develop that strain of seed. And it's designed specifically for deer. The stem of that clover, like you mentioned, if you're talking like a red clover that cattle eat, it's real stemmy. It's hard for deer to digest.
The leaves are small.
Leaves are small. White clover, bigger leaves.
Yeah.
The stem is almost like, I've actually seen guys in demonstrations do it. They chew it themselves. It's really dissolvable.
Yeah.
And that's why whitetails like it so much. It's a great food source, especially if you, like I said, if you can get that established, you got a really good food plot.
It's kind of funny because all over the chat boards and stuff, people always say it's BS, but you've seen the facility. I've seen the facility. The testing facility is
it's incredible.
Unbelievable.
And the thing about it too, and like I said, unless you've seen this up close, the seeds are specifically bred, generated for whitetails. And the thing, why does it cost so much? It's not only one, the research. Number two, they actually, a lot of that seed is hand-picked from different parts of the country because they're trying to get it so it will grow in whatever region you're in. If you're in the north, or if you're in the west, or if you're in the south, southeast, whatnot. Imperial whitetail clover, like I said, if you have to go with a brand, that is a really good one.
Yeah.
So that is one good tip to have out of the way here. We have, like I said, we have so many questions, Brad, that I didn't even print them off today. I'm just going to keep them right here on my smartphone, which is making me feel kind of dumb. But let's take a look here. This is an easy one, and I don't have names on this, so we will get, whoever answered a question, we're going to get your name up on the website. You're going to get your prize. Today's prize, by the way, is the calendar pack. You're going to get the 2015 daily calendar, which we just came out with. That's right here. That's a little page-a-day calendar. You can rip those off, keep it on your desk, love it for your desk. The other one is our classic wall calendar, Charlie Alsheimer's rut predictions in there. You're going to get one of each of those. Here's the question, Brad. When I finally get out to trim limbs, etc., for shooting lanes before the season, what is a good width for my shooting lanes? Should these be wide, because that will expose me to see more deer, or should they be tighter to keep me more camouflaged in my stand? It's almost a self-answering question, but
yeah. You know, you got to think yourself as a deer. Deer like dense areas. They like that thick, nasty cover. And if you make a big opening, that whitetail's likely to go around your opening and go all the way to the end and go around. So in my opinion, I think you're better off with a narrow shooting lane. You know, the biggest thing is to always have somebody on the ground. If you're going to be up in the tree stand, I love it when you're the hunter and you get up there and then you direct somebody, because if you try to do it yourself, it always seems like you either don't brush enough or you brush out too much.
Right.
It's one of those two things. It's like you're at extreme opposites, but it happens all the time. So when we do that, we try to brush them out. And I don't like really anything over a half a deer's body's length, because then they're more apt to actually walk through it. So, you know, we've all hunted in spots, Dan, and you've hunted it, I've hunted it, where the shooting lane was a little bit wider and the deer comes and he stops right before he gets to that. And then before he steps out, he actually trots through the shooting lane. They know it. They know it's there.
Especially when it's a mature buck. Great points. I agree with you 100%. The only thing I'd add to that is I don't really call what I do on the properties that I hunt as shooting lanes. I call them shooting holes. And what I mean by that is I just try to have a hole all the way around the tree, whether it's that big or whether it's that big that I know if a deer's coming through there, I could maybe fit an arrow through there. Because one thing that I learned this from Tom Inderbo and Pat Reeve, actually, before Pat Reeve was on television, when he was a guide over in Buffalo County, they taught me and they drummed it in my head. A mature buck, like you said, knows exactly why that was made. It was made by a person.
Yeah.
And if you have a hole, whether you're using a clipper to do that or you're using, I've seen guys use fishing line, tie a tree back, a little limb back or whatever, just so you have a hole that deer doesn't even know that there's anything there. And I think that's the key thing. And you don't have to, what I should say is, what I often tell people when I put them up in a stand, they say, well, I couldn't shoot that. Yeah, you're not going to be able to shoot every possible. There's going to be cases where you have a deer come in, you're just not going to get a shot.
Yep.
But it gives you a chance if you have a hole here, a hole behind you. A lot of times I won't even put one behind me because I know I can't even stand up and turn around and shoot that way.
Yeah.
So why even blaze a hole through there when it's not necessary? Deer walks behind you, okay, well, he beat you that time. That's kind of some of the thoughts, but I agree with you. And when I do it, I try to make those cuts, especially if it's on a little tree, a sapling, make that as close to the ground as possible to hide that where you cut, because somehow they pick that up.
I agree. The other tip, if you're going to do it is, you know, make sure when that branch falls or down, you do something with it, because it's probably already going to have human scent on. And the best example I can ever remember is we're filming down in Iowa, and you know, you're trying to move the stand very quickly, and we did it, and popped up the stand in a little pinch point, brushed it all out. Somebody dropped just the smallest little twig possible. And once you know, we're in that stand 2 hours later, 160-inch deer is coming right in on a beeline, hits a spot, puts his nose directly on the ground, and bolts out of there.
And he was gone.
And it was because he had that branch. He either smelt the human scent or he recognized that as fresh cuttings and he knew what it was.
That was a great buck, too. I remember
Absolutely.
when you came back and you were almost sick to your stomach over that one. That's a good point. And the other thing that I'll add to that is when you're cutting, let's say a limb, instead of letting it fall to the ground, what I'll do is I'll kind of fish it up in the trees, like behind me or something, just to add a little bit more cover to that spot. It's pretty easy to do. If you're cutting off a limb, and it's like instead of dropping that to the ground, there might be a limb over there where I can just kind of maybe toss it over there or reach it over there, and it's going to hang down. It's got leaves on it. In a lot of cases with like a hickory or an oak, something that's going to hold their leaves longer. Maple, not so much, but they actually hold their leaves almost all the way through.
Yeah, it gives you cover up in the tree stand too. Yeah.
It's a good point, and thanks for whoever sent that in. Like I said, we're going to get your names up on the website. That was a good question. We're going to get to a couple more here, Brad. This is a good one. I believe the guy's from Missouri who asked this question. He says, I have 280 acres of hardwoods on a hillside, surrounded by pastures and pine plantation with hilly terrain. He keeps going on and on. My land is surrounded, basically. He's basically saying his land is surrounded by lots of good cover. How many game cameras would you recommend that I put up on my 280 acres to keep track of deer on this property throughout the season?
You know, the biggest thing on that is access points. I mean, how easy is it to get around your your property, and how much are you normally in there? If you have food plots, like this time of year, we're working on our food plots we mentioned before. I can run all of our trail cameras. The deer have no fear in us going down with a tractor or even the ATV at this time of year, so we can run all of our trail cameras. And we probably have 10 in, you know, just on a little, you know, compared to him, 200 acres, basically, we have 10 of them in. I'm only covering one particular area of our property. You know, it's all access, you know, how easy it is, how easy in and out, because if you know, the more cameras you have, the more you're going to be able to have vision of what's going on in your woods. The problem is, if you're in there and you're spooking those whitetails, you're going to do more damage if you have 10 cameras in there and you can't access them easily. So that's my first question. If it's a spot where you have limited access, I'm going to be minimal. I'm going to put them on my mineral licks if I can do mineral licks, and that's it. I mean, I'm going to put those mineral licks closer to the edge. Now, if I have easy access, if there's logging roads through it all over the place, and I'm using those throughout the rest of the year, I'm going to put cameras on those roads where I can get easily in and easily
access,
out.
easy in and out. You know, I think we both were on the same learning curve on this as far as not only just cameras, but scouting in general. If you can get in there and you can do it easily and you can get out of there without leaving any, it's all about human scent. It's all about intrusion. It's all about how many times you go in the woods. Now, I hate to say that, because I always tell people, I said, you shouldn't own property or have access to good property and feel like you're walking on eggshells. Oh, God, I'm going to scare all the deer away. That's not the point. The point is being smart about it. And with trail cameras, you know, it's not as easy as me saying you should use one camera for every 40 acres. Well, you might only have 40 acres, and you might have good access that you could put 10 cameras out there.
Yeah.
And some people say that's overkill. One thing that you know, especially when you're trying to scout mature bucks, we've written about this many times in deer and deer hunting, is that some of those mature bucks are so smart they know where the cameras are and they will not step in front of them. And you know that buck's there, but you never got a picture of him.
The other thing is sometimes in a small area that mature buck only goes through one particular area. And I'm thinking we got 80 acres that has a food plot on the end of it, and the food plot's probably 2.5 acres, but it's kind of oval. And we have cameras on all three sides of that oval. And I'm amazed at how many times we'll get pictures of one particular buck on just one of those cameras and never the other two. It's not, I know he's in that field, and I know he's in there, but he's not utilizing those other two spots.
He's using certain areas.
He's just utilizing that one spot.
Speaking of cameras, tell everybody about the live feed that we got going on.
Oh, we got the new Cahaba camera, it's basically streams live. It is so cool. The beauty of it right now, it's over minerals, and the deer come heavily in the mornings. Not so much in the afternoons or midday, but you can go on there in the afternoon and see a doe or a doe and a fawn.
Saw turkeys yesterday.
You see. Bobcat, skunks. We watched a skunk the other day, which was kind of cool because he came bobbing and he wasn't going to the minerals.
I didn't see the skunk. I saw the turkeys. I saw some fawns.
Raccoons, but basically we have this camera up and it's streaming live, so check it out. It's on the Deer and Deer Hunting webpage, Cahaba River Camera. It's sponsored by Real Deal Minerals, and he's got something special there as well, because when you put it in a fresh bag, the deer are all over that place.
It's right there on the home page, so all you got to do is switch over from watching us for a second. It's the Cahaba River camera. It's about halfway down the page, right in the middle of what we call the fold of the page. The live feed is there. And what's cool about it is you might click on there and you see nothing. You see the grass blowing or something, but you can actually toggle that switch on the bottom and it takes you back, I don't know how long, it takes you back a few hours. So you can actually see what's been through there in the last few hours. It's cool. I played around with it yesterday. I shouldn't say that because I was doing it during work.
I can tell you this morning,
cool
between like 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, it was nonstop deer. I mean, they're just in there all the time.
Very cool. All right, let's get to a couple more questions here, Brad. And then we got a really cool thing to show everybody. Oh boy, we got so many good questions. Here we go. This is kind of up my power alley here. Our son asked me recently why deer change their colors in summer. He's referring to the hair or the coat. They were on their back deck watching deer in the neighbor's soybean field, and he, what is a deer's body doing in summer that changes color? This is interesting because if you ask biologists, they kind of differ on the explanation here, but we actually did several research pieces on this in the magazine over the years. Some biologists used to think that deer would molt twice a year, and that's why you would see in the summertime why they have that red coat. Kind of partially true. According to some of the more noted cervid biologists, They say actually deer only molt once a year, and that's in spring. And what I mean by that is they lose their hair, just like a dog would. They lose their hair once a year in spring. In summer, why they're red is those longer guard hairs, what they call on a deer. You know how deer, they get, a lot of times in the fall they look blue. Well, there's a guard hair that grows out after it molts, and it's got that reddish hue to it. And as the rest of that coat grows in from what they lost in spring, it's replaced by those thicker, hollow, what we call blue hairs on a deer's pelt. And when the deer gets to October, November, December, that's when they look really great, depending gray or dark or, like you say, dark blue. You know, that's why that is. But that is an interesting phenomenon that I always find, because like in the summertime now, like you said, you could be driving down and you could be looking across a huge soybean field and bam, there's a deer, because it's bright red, it's clay red.
Yeah, they stick
It sticks out. So that's actually a good question. It's something interesting that we follow, and side note is I'm allergic to deer hair, as you know. So that's why in September you always see me wearing a face mask and rubber gloves when I'm field dressing my deer. That's it for the questions. We wish we could get to more. Like I said, we're going to post those all on the website. Keep them coming, because we're going to compile all these at the end of the year and put them all there so they're quick reference for everybody on the website. Brad, the last thing we want to get to today is our shop special. ShopDeerHunting.com. We have the Easy Cut Pruners. We've talked about these before. You and I have used them, and everybody says, what's the big deal? It's a hand pruner. Well, I brought, it's a little test for you today, and it's going to be, this is an open book test. But what I'm going to do, this is our old pruner from my garden shed, and I'm not going to show you the brand name, but this is a regular pruner. Most guys have these in their backpack and say, good enough for me. I'm going to go out and clip a few shooting lanes or shooting holes or whatever you want to call them. Okay, now I'm going to give you that pruner, and then I'm going to start you off easy. This right here, I brought 4 different species of wood here. This is a piece of box elder. I got these growing like weeds on my property. But it's a little, so you're going to go out and you're going to clip your shooting lane with that. Snip pretty quick.
Yeah,
right?
I can get through it.
Okay, now we're going to take you a step up, and that's a piece of red maple. We call it soft maple. Clip pretty easy. It's a soft maple. It's a softer wood. You're going to get one step up. White birch is actually considered hardwood, but it's not as hard as as you know, as other things. So you might want to take the thin end of that one. Little bit of pressure, right?
A little bit of pressure.
Kind of pinches your fingers. Now, the granddaddy of them all, this is shagbark hickory.
Oh, boy. There we go.
All right, so from the expressions of Brad's face, you saw how that went. Now, that's with your bargain department store brand pruner, okay? Now, this is what we have in Shop Deer. It's called the Easy Cut Pruner. What I like about it is that handle, right there. It's got that D-ring handle, so you can actually fit your hand in there, so you're not going to pinch yourself when you're doing it. And it's got a little safety there. But what's neat about this, I'm going to explain it first, is Brad's going to show you, is that's going to catch. And now just do that and see how easy it is. Now, this is hickory.
And this is hickory on the big end.
On the big end.
Just goes through like butter.
And as what you can hear there is that when he's reefing on that thing, it's actually like it's a ratchet.
It's a ratchet.
So it's like you're doing a regular, like a ratchet on your tree stand. It's click, 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 and it's pressing, pressing, pressing until it snaps that piece.
Yeah.
That was hickory. Now just take something like this is the maple.
And that's going to go through like butter. I mean,
Right
there's
through.
no pressure whatsoever.
That's what we got on special today. What these things really are cool for, you put one of those in your backpack. We have them on sale today at Shop Deer. I think they're, I'm going to get the price wrong. I think they're $29.95. I've had that one in my pack for 2 years.
Dan likes pink, by the way, but it comes in green as well. Okay, so you can get a green one.
I'll tell you why I like pink. That's the only one I haven't lost. The camel ones are sitting at the base of a tree somewhere that I dropped and couldn't find. But we have them in different colors. Check it out. Easy Cut. It's Easy Cut Pruner at ShopDeerHunting.com. Have them on sale. Also, if you tell them you saw it on Deer Talk, just enter Deer Talk in the checkout box. Get yourself a pruner. Get one for your dad or your buddy or your wife or whoever you're hunting with. Put it in their backpack. They're going to thank you. Their hands are going to thank you for it too. So that's a good thing we got going on.
Every hunter should have one of these in their pack. I have one in my turkey vest that we keep all the time. I have one in my deer pack.
What I really like about it is, now this piece of hickory here, I'm going to do one more thing there, but this piece of hickory, I don't know if you can see that, Tyler. It's kind of thick. It's about big around as my thumb. I've done twice that size easily, because the ratchet on this thing will catch it. Let me try to turn that sideways. See, now it's not killing my hand to do this. Right off, and it's a clean cut.
What I found out, if you can get the jaws in here,
If you can get it in there. So it's going to be about, it's going to be about yay big.
You can probably almost get an inch. You can score it around, and they're amazing. It's an amazing tool.
It's a good tool. Check them out. You will thank me for it after you've done these. There's nothing wrong with getting one of these little $9.95 things at the department store, but the only problem with these things is they slip. You can break them really easy, especially if you're trying to get on a bigger piece, and you're not going to get a clean cut most of the time. Most of the time you're going to get that jig, you want it breaking it off. It's such a cool thing to have.
My wife uses one of our easy cuts for around the house.
That's why this is
That's
in the
what she
office,
uses for pruning.
Because Tracy would have that in the garden and I'd never see it again.
Yes.
So. All right, that's today's show. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to check out the shop specials at shopdeerhunting.com. And also be sure to check out the new Deer and Deer Hunting magazine on newsstands coming out next week. It's called Modern Crossbow. This is our brand new annual for this year. Crossbow hunting is the biggest growing market in the hunting industry. We came out with a special issue, so whether you're first trying it or you have a friend or your dad or your kids, we got stories in there on how to get kids involved in hunting. Crossbow is a perfect way to get them involved in it. Check it out, Modern Crossbow on newsstands right now. That's it for this week. For Brad Rocks, I'm Dan Schmidt. Thanks for joining us on Deer Talk Now. We'll see you here next week.